We're definitely not at the nude beach on Sandy Hook because we just saw the bus drive by from the ferry, apparently going to Gunnison Beach, but
we're close.
We're close enough, but we're at the Mule Barn Tavern here in Sandy Hook. Jamie, it's nice to see you.
You as well.
Thanks for joining me.
Back again.
Thanks for joining me for a cocktail. This is the, I don't even know what this is. This is a Garden Mule.
Garden Mule, blueberry, ginger,
freaking
lime.
delicious. And we have some lunch coming. But it's been a while since we've been together on camera, and I wanted to connect and chat and see what's going on in your world and your business, and you know, get an update for anybody that cares to listen about the real estate market in general in Monmouth County. We're hanging out on Sandy Hook, and here comes our food.
Delicious food.
Oh my God! Now I can't wait to dive into it. Tuna nachos look absolutely stunning. Thank you so much. And whatever salad that is.
Apple walnut
the
salad.
Apple walnut salad looks ridiculous. So we're going to talk quick so we can dive in and eat.
Yeah.
So you've been in this real estate game for how long now?
5.5 years. And I think last time we met it was over 2 years ago.
It's over 2 years ago we connected last time, and now you are that much more experienced. What's your confidence level right now when you're going into transactions? Like, you're a total boss right now?
Total boss. I appreciate that. I'm glad that I exude that energy.
You do.
No, for sure. I mean, I think that, you know, getting in when I got in 2019 was a great year. And of course it got better and better, but then, you know, that part of the real estate world, that time it still isn't sustainable, right? So at some point it's like, okay, how can we brush up on our skills and, you know, get more experience and have these hard conversations and like know how to build those skills to do that. And I feel like the last 2 years has kind of made me pivot into having those different conversations that we didn't in 2020 and 2021.
I think it's more important than ever to have a professional representing you in anything that you're doing, right? Whether it's insurance or especially real estate, like part-time realtors can't succeed in our market today. So how have you evolved over the last couple of years in your business, right? You were working with an amazing team. You decided to spin off on your own. Now you're bringing in employees to work for you and help you continue to grow. How have you navigated over the last couple of years?
Yeah, so I think that, you know, the team that I was on helped me, you know, gain the confidence, and I think really emotional intelligence to be able to manage people's emotions and have those conversations.
Love that.
I think that not only in business, but it just helped me personally as well, so I carry myself a little bit differently, as well as the level of, you know, certain clientele and, you know, what they're purchasing and selling, so understanding that. You know, I'm big in educating and, you know, scripting and just being able to confront harder conversations, especially up front, rather than, you know, kind of pushing it under the rug and dealing with it on the back end. You know, like you said, doing real estate not full time is difficult. You know, some people are like, I've been a realtor for 20 years. And I'm like, that's great. But how many transactions in those 20 years have you done? And it's
one per year.
Right. And it's very different, right? So the fact that I'm having conversations more often and more frequent are helping me just even adjust my strategy, whether I'm on the listing side or buying side, right? So
it's putting the reps in, right? It's time under tension, just like at the gym. If you want to see results, you have to put that time in under tension and have those strong conversations and be able to control that conversation is the key. Getting into the business, any business as a professional service provider today, right? You got to start having those conversations, putting in the reps, and really being able to understand how to navigate. Because how many people are involved in a single residential real estate transaction?
I mean, minimum, right? 5, because that's all the professionals. But then, I mean, you're going
plus buyers and sellers,
plus
attorneys, titles,
you know, their team, and then, you know, you can branch off into accountants and, you know, home improvement people, and I mean, it's a lot of scheduling and, you know, moving that stuff
we had
around.
Matt Cohen, you know, in the studio a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about less about title insurance, more about escrow, handling money, and the cyber risks of it. We talked about the number of people that touch a real estate transaction, right? There needs to be somebody that's taking the lead and managing that. and oftentimes you're managing the realtor on the other side of the transaction as well.
I say I'm the realtor is really the quarterback of the whole entire transaction on both sides, right? It's making sure that, our side is meeting the deadlines, their side is meeting the deadlines, everything is being managed correctly. I mean, it's a lot goes into it, right? And then forget about even getting the town involved, right? When you're on a seller side and you're dealing with certificate of occupancy, and some towns are, really treacherous to get through.
Has that gotten worse over the last couple of years to get a CO?
Not necessarily, but certain towns are. So right now I'm dealing with one in Marlboro, and it is an absolute nightmare. Primarily I don't work in Marlboro. I'm more on the coast and up in this area where we are now, which is great. But again, just being able to have that experience and know how to handle certain situations, and then going into the next transaction, now you know what to look out for in certain towns or certain situations, or on both sides. So again, it's the experience and the reps doing it over and over again. And I go into my consultations like that. Depending on what they're looking for, or where they're looking, I'm able to have more higher level conversations and things to look out for because of that experience that I have.
And you've built your team behind you for your professionals that you rely on and recommend strongly and confidently. Hopefully I'm one of them.
Of course.
I know that I'm one of them.
You know that you're one of them. And that is huge to me, not only even in the real estate transaction, but even the people that I hire as well. And I say this to my clients, you won't hear from my admin or my transaction coordinator often. You're gonna hear from me. They help me so I can be here on the front end, and I'm your point of contact at all times.
Love that.
And that's really different, right? Because you're not gonna get handed off to someone while you're working with me. It's gonna be me at all times, and they're just supporting me on the back end.
Yeah, which is a great way to look at it, right? In my business, we've gone to the next step in that, where I have great people behind the scenes that do a much better job than I do. I do a great job of being in the front and having the strong conversations and setting things up for success, but I need the people behind the scenes to be able to have the next conversations to be able to get things to the finish line, because I don't know those details anymore. Could I figure it out? Yeah, I could probably figure it out, but my team is so confident, and my business has gone to a place where I trust my team to take things and have the second, third, fourth, and fifth conversation with people to finalize and finish the insurance contracts. And I love working with you and your team and people that you like to bring together for a deal. If it's Evan Beach and Joe Astorita and Two Rivers Title, when the five of us are on a transaction, everything happens behind the scenes, right? It's that quote unquote who you work with matters moment, where we have the right people in place. I'm like, I can talk to Joe directly because I can text him.
Exactly.
Or Evan, I can text him, and same thing with Two Rivers Title. We can communicate everything behind the scenes and get things done. So when people hire somebody like you, instead of saying, I don't even know if for sale by owner is even a thing anymore, there's probably people think that they still want to save however many points on a transaction because it's still a lot of money. But the amount of things that go into a real estate transaction, the amount of parts, right? If you checklisted everything that has to be done on a buyer's and seller's side, you'd be a couple of hundred items to be checklisted.
I would have a scroll, and it would go to the ground. And this is what I've done so far in the transaction.
This is what I'm going to do for you. Right. This is what you don't see, and this is what you're hiring professionals.
But that's
for,
what I
both
say.
on the buy side and the sell side.
It should be exciting for you, and or if it's stressful, right? I'm the one to take that burden on, and you're focused on the move and buying furniture and that next step in your life. You're paying me and my team to do all this.
Right.
You don't have to do this. And I talk about that with for sale by owners sometimes, where it's you want to save money, but you're not doing the work that it takes to save the money. So if you're paying someone to do it, you're most likely going to net more at the end of the day anyway, and you don't have this list of things to do.
Right. Yeah, there's so many things that can get you. That should be in your next listing agreement. Your listing appointment should bring an actual scroll and drop it and watch. Here's the checklist of everything that we're going to do for you.
So that's what I'm going to do in the next time I speak at our LaTip meeting is me bringing a scroll as a small borough deal. And this is what you don't see behind the scenes.
This is what you don't see behind the scenes. So about a year ago with the NAR commissions thing, right? And how's that whole thing working out? Is that kind of all clear now? Everybody's on the same page? Or?
Yeah, I think that realtors, it really didn't change much. I think that it scared buyers because it highlighted a little bit of what was already a thing, right? I mean, commission was always negotiable, always. It was just more common than not for sellers to pay because, of course, I use the analogy where, you know, when it's a buyer's market, you're going to have an incentive to bring buyers to your house. And at the end of the day, you know, if we can net more, right, or make more money, you're still going to net, if not the same. And the money's coming from somewhere. So it's really just having that, you know, nonchalant conversation about it. And listen, in the worst case scenario, you know, if the seller doesn't pay, you'll know up front before we see the house that, you know, you have to pay. You know, it happened to me once in the last year, and I was able to negotiate it in as a credit. So it worked out.
It's all part of the deal. You look at New York City, right? There's a whole big uproar about New York City and renters no longer paying the realtor commission. Well, what happened to rents? Rents went up on day one to cover the cost so that the landlords can then pay the commissions with the same amount of money. It's just a different way of moving the money. The money's still the same. The money's not changing. It's just the way the money gets transferred, and either the price is going to go up or the price is going to go down based on what that commission is. So that, you know, there was such an uproar over that, and how things are going, and having to have the buyer's agreements signed before you go show a house.
I mean,
like,
so that's still
adding more steps to the process.
For sure. I mean, so that's still a thing, which in my opinion, I actually value that more, because if I'm getting commitment from you as a buyer, you know, you're also getting the commitment from me, you know, to represent you, which I personally think that I wouldn't sign a contract if I don't know you, right? So it's building that rapport and trust up front, and it kind of just weeds out the people that aren't really serious. You know, I mean, for buyer's agents, I think it was a little bit more. You know, they were a little bit more hesitant to have these conversations, because if their business was buyer heavy, you know, it's a little bit harder conversations. As a listing agent, primarily, you know, it was simple, but also, you know. But
having those hard conversations up front are super beneficial, because you get it out of the way. You have that conversation here as your buyer's agent. Here's the scroll. Here's what I'm going to do for you. And this is why you're going to hire me, not just to open doors for you. If you want to pay me to open doors, here's my fee. If you want me to pay me to do and take you to the next step,
my hourly
here's
wage.
my fee.
Right. So even like when I'm at listing appointments, like I now have a whole entire page of being really transparent as to here's all the things that I'm doing, and this is what reflects my commission. And I personally do a tiered commission for me at a higher rate, but this is what's included, because a lot of people aren't doing that, and that's really how the whole NAR thing happened. Was there just wasn't transparency about what seller agents were doing. So I feel like that's
let's talk about continuing to talk about legalities in the market. There's this whole conversation now about this increased or sliding scale of a new mansion tax, which I had to pay in my most recent home a couple years ago. You know, an extra 1% on top of the 1% of the home that I was selling, because that was also like, you know, just it had to come to the table with another, you know, $20,000 and change, whatever it is. Now that's going up and getting worse. So I know that's a huge topic of conversation right now. So touch on what that's all about and why it matters.
Yeah. So really quickly, you know, that's been in place for quite some time. Is this 1%, you know, tax from $1 million and over? You know, now there's a sliding scale, and it's between 1% to 3.5%. You know, the buyers used to pay for it, and now the sellers are, which, you know, it's just an additional cost to sell your home. You know, so it's also even more important now to have the conversations of, you know, what is your home's value? You know, is this a realistic number that you can get? Because for me, I backtrack that of what my seller is going to net. So now you're incorporating, you know, this tax as well. You know, it's a little controversial, I think, but, you know, the money's going to come from somewhere. I think
the money's going to come from somewhere. It's extra money, but 1% was also low, because if you look at other states, you know, Vermont, for instance, I own in Vermont. You're paying 2% no matter what. I think so. That to me, I'm like, oh, 2%. I'm like, it's only 1% in New Jersey, right, for the real estate transfer tax, but in Vermont, it's 2% on both sides of the transaction, no matter what. Nobody cares.
So it's relative compared to what you're looking at it, right? So for you, it doesn't really matter, but for someone who, you know, hasn't paid it and now it's going to increase, of course, it's going to make them feel a different way. But I think what's interesting is, you know, and what everyone's saying is $1 million really doesn't get you far in Jersey anymore. You know, along the whole coast from here all the way down in Monmouth County specifically, the average price point is 2.2 million. You know, we're running from about like, you know, 800,000 to, you know, deal is 5.8 million is their medium, you know, sales price.
Funny.
So
I always think about, you know, my prior homes that I bought. My first real estate purchase was $150,000, and then my first family home was $675,000, and that was a stretch. And now that's and that was a nice home at the time. It still is a nice home, but you know, people are buying shacks that are uninsurable, that need a lot of work for a whole lot of money, and I just don't know how it's going on. Like, I was paying rent for $3,000 a month. That same place that was $3,000 a month 15 years ago is now $6,000 a month.
Yeah.
It's so expensive. The cost of living is just
it's expensive.
It's bananas.
You know, I talk about this with Evan, you know, my favorite lender. He talks about it all the time that like
Right.
it's very rare that you're going to find a single person buying a home. You know, and the debt has increased. It's, you know, there's nothing else to say other than
Right.
like it is difficult.
Yeah.
That is just Jersey right now. You know, other markets have, you know, ebbs and flows for sure, but where we are in Jersey and what is here and what's coming here and the proximity to the city, of course, like everyone
Right.
says, it's, you know, it's just it's a premium
Listen,
spot
I
to
think
be.
I think we're lucky in Monmouth County and where we are in New Jersey. I think our market is strong. I'm happy to be a homeowner
For sure.
in this area for sure. You know, other B markets are starting to probably see a decrease with this interesting economy that we're in. Stock market is up. Things are weird. Sentiment is strange. Consumer
Yeah.
debt is through the roof. You know, where it's going to go in the next couple of years, I don't really know. But what's next on the agenda for you? Like, where are you taking your business next?
Yeah, so I'm in a really exciting time that I'm like in the growth stage of my business.
Okay.
So I left my team in 2023. I doubled my business from 2023 to 2024.
Love that.
And just in the last 5 months, I've doubled my business from last. I'm gonna double my business on track
Right.
for the end of this year.
That's so good.
I am in a point where I'm hiring. I'm going to be hiring a full-time admin, 2 agents under me. So it's exciting to kind of be on the more of the building the business side
Right.
and maintaining the clients that I have. I love my clientele.
Right.
I know them so well. I know their family. I go to their house. I go to their kids' birthday parties, and like that's what I love. So I've kind of stepped away a little bit from the, you know, oiling the tank, as they say, of like. I was cold calling for the last 4.5 years of my
Wow.
career. That's how I built my business because I'm not from Monmouth County, so
Right.
I didn't know anyone. So I did that, and now I'm, you know, loving and nurturing, you know, the community that I've built and the clients and, you know, the professionals that we work with are, you know, it's incredible. I've built a really
It's
cool
important to
business
build
off of
that trust and that rapport, and it takes time, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it just 10 minutes ago. Time under tension and getting those reps in and doing the work and learning your business and your people and the market
Yeah.
that we're in. And you've proven it, you know, over and over again that you are such an expert in what you do, and you've been sharing your expertise, you know, with other agents building that want to get into the real estate business, which is a shitty business to get into. So
Yeah, don't do it.
You know, don't do it.
You know, it's simple, but it's not easy.
Right.
Like I just did a class a couple weeks ago in my office, and I encouraged newer agents to come in, and agents that I knew that were kind of struggling in this market.
Right.
And I just said, you know, just do the activities. You know, I don't just get my business from calling or, you know, talking to my sphere. I'm building, you know, great relationships with professionals and,
Right.
you know, developers and investors, and it's just I have different kinds of business coming from all over,
Sure.
which then builds, you know, my resume more of I'm more well-rounded.
treating it as a business and
Yeah.
building the business and putting the time in across the board for all the activities is what's important. And that's how I built my business, is through networking and relationships, and, you know, and I don't stop that.
Correct.
I continue to do that. Hence why we shoot so many videos in so many cool places. Jamie
And
Arcykiewicz.
I'm always
you
with a
know,
drink.
So happy to be drinking this mule. I want to eat these tuna nachos, so I'm going to cut this video off.
Thank
and
you so
I'm
much for
glad
having me again.
Glad to have you today.
Cheers.
Cheers.